look at solving some more advanced equations, but still in the family of linear functions. Looking at this one, we have 2 parentheses, the quantity f minus 4 plus 4 equals 10. And our end goal is to get f by itself. Find out what just one f equals. So in order to do that, we've got to get rid of everything that's in the way. We see that we've got this 2 in the way, and that's attached by multiplication, which we know from the parentheses. We have this minus 4 in the way, and we have this plus 4 in the way. So which one of those is the easiest to get rid of first? I would say let's get rid of this, add 4. So we do the inverse of adding 4, which is subtracting 4. So if we subtract 4 from this side, we have to subtract 4 from this side as well. So 2 times the quantity f minus 4. This is like its own term. And it's got an f involved. So I can't combine the 4 with this. But I can combine these 2 terms. These are like terms because they're both numbers with no variables involved. And they're not restricted by parentheses. So when we have 4 minus 4, that just gives us 0. So it's like adding 0. So that part goes away, and we're left with 2 times the quantity f minus 4 equals, what's 10 minus 4? That would be 6. Now from here, we have 2 options, just like we were doing with our warm-up with Wanda and Vision, who solved the equation differently. We've got 2 options, right? We can either distribute this 2 to both of these terms, or we can divide both sides by 2 right away. And that would be the faster option. So that sounds like the good one to me, but either would work. So if we divide this entire side by 2, 2 times something divided by 2. Well, 2 divided by 2, anything divided by itself is 1. So that goes away. Let's remind ourselves we have to divide this side by 2 as well. Now we're left with f minus 4 on this side of the equal sign. And we're left with, what's 6 divided by 2? That gives us 3. So we're left with f minus 4 equals 3. So what number minus 4 would give us 3? And to get that, we would do the opposite of minusing 4, which would be adding 4, because negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So that would go away and leave us with just the f, which is what we want. And if we add 4 on this side, we have to add 4 on this side as well. And 3 plus 4 gives us 7. So our final answer would be f equals 7. All right, let's go to the next slide. And clear all drawings. Okay, here we go. What if we were asked to solve for y in this equation? We want to get y by itself, but right now it looks like we've got this minus 16 is in the way, and dividing by negative 3 is in the way. Now, because this negative 3 is dividing the y and the negative 16, we can't just add 16 to both sides. This negative 3 is affecting this negative 16. So let's get rid of the dividing by negative 3 first. It looks like a fraction, it is a fraction, and we remember that fractions are always just telling us that it's division. So we're dividing this numerator by the denominator. So to get rid of the denominator, to get rid of this negative 3, we do the opposite of dividing, which is multiplying. So if we multiply everything on this side of the equation by negative 3, which is the same thing as negative 3 over 1, these negative 3's will cancel out because negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. And if we multiply this side by negative 3, we have to multiply this side by negative 3. Negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. So let's simplify now. this was positive 3. I'm going to try to keep my equals signs lined up this time. We said these negative 3's canceled out, so we're left with y minus 16. Well, now we're just at a one-step equation. What number minus 16 gives us 3? We could use our inverse operations trick. We could say the opposite of subtracting 16 would be adding 16. Negative 16 plus 16 is 0, so that would go away and leave us with just y, which is what we want. And if we add 16 to this side, we must add 16 to this side as well. And 3 plus 16 is 19. Final answer. Now, I should have done this on the first one. How do we know that we're correct? If we were looking at this original equation, y minus 16, that whole thing is divided by negative 3, and it told us that that was equal to negative 1. Let's test out our answer of 19 and see if we were correct. So we said that y was equal to 19, so we can replace this y with 19. Come on, here we go. No, I want it to be green. Oh my goodness, okay. We can replace the y with the 19 and see if we're right. So what's 19 minus 16? That would give us 3. And then we're dividing that by negative 3. And is 3 divided by negative 3 equal to negative 1? Yes, it is. So that's how we know that our answer was correct. All right, lastly, one more. Here we go. Okay, this one looks complicated, but I promise it's not bad. Just remember that our end goal is to get y by itself, to isolate y. We have negative 16 y's over here. We've got negative 5 y's over here. Those are like terms. They both have y's, right? So we can combine like terms. So we can make our lives more simple right with these first two. Whoops, excuse me. Right here. So what's negative 16y plus negative 5y? We started at negative 16 and we're getting more negative. Negative 16 minus 5 would give us negative 21. So negative 16y plus negative 5y would give us negative 21y. Oh, I also see something we can simplify right here. We have two minus signs next to each other. Remember, we can think of negative and subtraction as both meaning minus. So whenever we see two next to each other and we can think of the negative sign as meaning opposite, right? We were going to subtract and then it's like, just kidding, we're doing the opposite. We're going to add. So whenever we see two negative signs right next to each other, that really just means that we're going to add. So we have negative 21y plus 11. That number 11 will stay the same. Equals negative 10. Now, why didn't we, if we added negative 5y to this negative 16y, why didn't we add 5 over here as well? Well, because this negative 5y was already on this side, right? We were just combining these together. We weren't changing the structure of the entire equation. We were just simplifying. So now we still want to get y by itself. Negative 21 is in the way. That's attached by multiplication. Whenever we don't see a symbol, if it's just a coefficient and a variable, that means that there are negative 21 y's, meaning it's multiplication. And then we have this adding 11. That seems like that's going to be the easier thing to get rid of first. So let's do that. The opposite of adding 11 is subtracting 11. So we subtract 11 from this whole side, but because these are the only like terms, we have 11 minus 11, which is 0. And then we also have to subtract 11 from this side. So we're left with negative 21y. That didn't change at all. negative 21 times y is equal to, what's negative 10 minus 11? Well, that gives us negative 21. It's getting more negative. Okay, lastly, got to get rid of this negative 21. It was being multiplied. So the inverse of multiplication would be division. So if we divide this by negative 21, negative 21 divided by itself is 1. So we're left with just 1y. We have to divide this side by negative 21. Negative 21 divided by itself is 1. So our final answer is y equals 1, because any number divided by itself is 1. So 1y equals 1. And now let's check our work. If we replaced the y with a 1, we would have 16, negative 16 times 1. And then it says to add to that, negative 5 times 1. Whoops, I wrote the y instead of the 1. We're replacing the y with the 1. And then we're adding 11. And when we do that, it should give us negative 10. So let's see if we were correct. When we do negative 16 times 1, that should give us negative 16. Then it says add negative 5 times 1. Because of order of operations, PEMDAS, we're going to multiply these first. Should give us negative 5. So negative 16 plus negative 5. Then we're going to add 11. And does that equal negative 10? Just going to put a question mark because we're checking our work. Okay, so negative 16 plus negative 5 is negative 21. And negative 21 plus 11 is indeed negative 10. Negative 10 is equal to negative 10, so we must have gotten the correct answer. Y equals 1. Because when we substitute or replace the number 1, every time we see a y, we replace it with a number 1, and this becomes a true equation.